Hey, this is William Schultz with the New Marketing for Your Small Business podcast. And today we have an amazing episode with one of the top marketers in the property restoration world, Niki Ramirez. Niki Ramirez has been in the restoration world for about 9 years at Rainbow International Restoration of Chicago. And she's taken this business to the top. They're one of the most respected franchises in their industry. In this episode, we learn about some of the secrets that Niki has used to get to that point and get that business to that point. We learn about some of her marketing do's and don'ts, things that businesses can utilize in their marketing to become successful, and maybe how businesses can avoid becoming stagnant with their marketing. Plus, a lot of other real value add stuff in this episode. So we hope you love the episode. Check it out all the way to the end so you can get her contact information. And if you have any questions, we'll put all of that information in the show notes.
The New Marketing for Your Small Business podcast. Delivering the latest opportunities in marketing to help your small business grow and prosper in a digital world.
Hello, and welcome to the New Marketing for Your Small Business podcast, where we help small business owners grow and prosper in a digital world. We've got a great show for you today. My name is Luke Porter, and I'm with Moving Tree Media.
And I am William Schultz. I am with Vivid Concepts Media. And our show today is pretty cool because we have somebody that I met about 8 years ago when I first started my sales career, my business-to-business sales career with Rainbow International Restoration. And this person here is a superstar in that restoration world when it comes to marketing and sales. And I got to tell you, she's been a mentor for me, and I wouldn't be able to have ascended to where I did in that part of my career without her and all the feedback and constant encouragement she gave. So I want to introduce our guest, Niki Ramirez. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it, Luke and Will.
So Niki, I think it would be helpful for our listeners if we started by just having you tell us what type of work you do. When we talk about restoration, I don't think that everyone has the exact same idea in their heads. So tell us about the kinds of restoration that you do.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because when I mentioned that I'm in the restoration field, I get all different kinds of feedback. They think restoring cars, they think restoring buildings as far as like masonry work and tuck pointing, but I am in the property damage restoration field. So that means that we assist property owners, homeowners, business owners with fire cleanup, flood cleanup, mold remediation, trauma scene cleanup, crime scene. And we did jump on the COVID bandwagon to help our customers when that started taking off during the pandemic.
So, I'll tell a little bit of how we met. You can kind of go into your origin story. I met Niki again when I was a sales guy at Rainbow International Restoration. She works as the top marketing director for one of the top franchises in the country, and that's in the restoration world. That's a big deal. So we met, we hit it off. I remember she gave me this thick Windows document with like kind of the do's and do nots for a BDA, which is a business development associate. And I remember actually studying that. And to be honest with you, Niki, the last person I hired and the 4 people I hired since then, I gave them all that packet, and that thing still holds that much weight and water since then. So it became part of my training. So that was an awesome thing. So, Niki, why don't you tell us a little bit about, your origin story? How did you get started in marketing, and how did you end up working with Rainbow National Restoration?
So I don't have like an exciting story or anything, but I've been a stylist pretty much my whole life, beginning of my adult career. And it was just taking a toll on my body. And I just wanted to try something different. And I had one of my clients who I became close friends with, and she actually lived with me. And she said that a restoration company was hiring. And I'm like, I can talk to people. So let me just learn what I'm going to be selling, and maybe it'll be a good fit. So they ended up hiring me. I didn't do a ton of research as far as the industry or the company company itself. It was kind of just one of those you walked right in deals, and it just wasn't really a good fit for me. I was there for about 8 years. So I did get to learn the restoration side, which I did like, understanding how insurance claims are involved. The only problem is it was more of a different kind of approach than I liked. It was more when people's houses are on fire, going up to them and trying to solicit your service. And that just doesn't sit right with me. They're like, go find them at the hotel. And I'm like, are you sure their house is just on fire? So it just isn't the way that I want to communicate with people and build relationships. But I did like the industry. So I started researching companies, and Rainbow was at the top of my list. Now they weren't currently hiring, and salespeople shouldn't take no for an answer, right? So I start emailing, and I just go and drop by, and he's like, come back on Friday and I'll interview you. So I show up. I only have 8 months of experience, otherwise I didn't hear my whole life. So what am I really bringing to the table? But I pretty much sent in my follow-up email, look, it's hard for me to go away. I don't like to hear no. And I can learn to talk to anyone. Just teach me what, I have to sell. So he kind of liked that approach that I didn't care. I kept being told no, and I just kept coming back. Some people will even test their marketers and see, okay, what kind of approach are you making? Because as we know in sales, you're going to be told no a lot. So he ended up hiring me, and now I've been with Rainbow I just celebrated my 9-year anniversary in April. So I started as a BDA, kind of learning the ropes. And then I've worked up to the risk response manager.
That's awesome. And I know that because I know you guys personally, I know that, being a hairstylist and going into becoming like one of the top, restoration marketers in your industry, that's quite a jump. What are some of the things that you did to make that jump and then become so successful? And what did you implement to become one of the top franchises in the country?
I think the biggest thing I'd say is it's really a numbers game. Just like anything with sales, it's how many people can you talk to, how many relationships can you develop, and you got to have a good cadence. So I'd say the cadence is really important with the numbers game. A lot of people may not realize, but it takes on average about 8 touches to really go ahead and land that sale. Well, how many people don't even make it to 8? Now, some people, they might not qualify as a prospect, so they're not worth taking to 8, but other people, I think that they give up a lot easier, So at the end of the day, I'm like, well, you didn't tell me to go anywhere. So, I'm just going to hit you back in a couple weeks, hey, remember that 5th voicemail I left? And we have a niche market. We're not trying to sell like a laptop, like a tangible thing. We're selling something that people, it's almost like life insurance. You kind of don't want to talk about it. It's never going to happen. So it's really important that we're trying to plant the seed. Like, yes, it can happen. It can happen to you. And if you don't have someone in place, you should. And let's take a look at who you currently have, and maybe we could be, a better option. Then I would say it's account management. Once we've actually made the sale, how are you nurturing the relationships and taking it from a job to really having a lifelong relationship? Once you like me, then you end up giving us a try. We're going to do well. And then you're going to end up being our walking billboard. You're going to end up telling other people about us and referring us to your friends, your family, and your coworkers. So that really also helps drive business. So I'd say the top things, again, are how many people can you touch? Keep touching them, having a cadence, and then really forming the relationship, nurturing it throughout a lasting relationship.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that about the touch points, because I don't think a lot of business owners necessarily realize that sometimes people want to be reminded that they haven't followed up with you. They like those reminders because we're all busy people. It's not always annoying them. And the cadence, like you said, is real important. I'm curious to get your thoughts. This is something that we ask all of our guests. What would you say the difference is between marketing and branding?
So I'd say marketing is more the act itself. It's how are you going to actually reach people? So to me, marketing is the flyer, it is the mailer, it is the postcard, it's the mass email. Branding, I would categorize more about it's communicating the message. So you got to make sure you have strong messaging when you're putting those marketing pieces together. So when you think of this, I want you to think of rainbow. So all of your materials should have good messages. If you're just kind of saying, hey, we do water, we do fire, they're like, yeah, we know, we get it. Why are you different than someone else? So for other small businesses, it's the same thing. How are you making yourself different and standing out from other people so that when they think of that one thing, they're going to think of you. You're going to solve their headaches and their problems. So you really got to have a strong message when you're putting that stuff together.
So, along those lines, and when we're talking about, marketing materials and strategies and things along in that nature, what are some of the marketing tools you use to market your business? Are you using email? Are you using like social media content where you're posting on a regular basis? Obviously, it sounds like you're doing in-person visits. Are you doing phone calls, things of that nature? And out of all of those, which ones have been the most successful for you?
So I do a little bit of everything. To be honest, I don't think it's one thing I do that is the magic trick that, gets them to ring on the phone. I think it's a little bit of everything. I am on Facebook, and I didn't have a Facebook until I actually joined Rainbow. I didn't really partake in the social media, but once I got into the role I'm in and I'm in a sales marketing role, I understood that Facebook is important. Now, it's not necessarily a professional platform. It's completely different to me than it is LinkedIn, and I was trying to reach out to people and I had only Rainbow stuff. And then I'm like, well, it's just one other way I'm soliciting them. Are they going to like that? Maybe they want to actually get to know me, who is actually trying to solicit them. And it's interesting when you do connect with people and you find out you have something in common. I vacation there too. I'm also into that. So now you have things to talk about. Now, some people don't end up accepting your requests, and I understand because it might be more of a personal platform. It is their life you're asking to be involved with. But when I was heavily marketing insurance agents, tons of them would end up accepting. And it's interesting that people I've maybe never even met, I hadn't had time to visit. They'd just shoot you a message. Hey, I have a need. And I always laugh because everyone's like, hey, I can't find your number. And it's like, it's on the header on the top of my Facebook, but they feel more comfortable sometimes just messaging you directly. I wanted to build my property manager book, and I even went on Facebook and was looking for titles of property managers, found this guy in the area, and we connected and, just kind of shot him a message, seeing if there was an interest. Do you currently have anyone? How are you handling things? And it just so happens they weren't happy with their current vendor. And now we landed their whole account. It was just by Facebook. And we kind of laugh like Facebook brought us together, and he's very likable. I think he likes John and I. So now we built a friendship out of it, I do pay for the premium LinkedIn. So I do like that I can send more connection requests than the average. You kind of go down a rabbit hole. You find a title and that leads to something else. And this person used to work at this company and now I want to look up that company too. So I do like that I can send a lot more connection requests. It gives me the option to go ahead and send a direct message if we're not connected yet. So I like those features. Definitely more of a professional platform. So I like that. If I can't find a certain title on a website, I'm going there to try to search for the title. But, I try to post stuff that's not just marketing materials about our business, educational topics. An example would be, you see a lot of efflorescence on buildings and people don't know what that is. They just see this white powdery stuff, and you see it everywhere, but they have no idea how it got there, what it is. So I just put a post together and it just had some information and a picture and I got some good interaction. And it's not about Rainbow and what I'm selling. It's just about being the go-to, being a resource. Hey, maybe she knows someone for that. Maybe she has information on this. I'm a heavy email user. I do think that COVID really changed things. I definitely make cold calls just like anyone, who likes being hung up on, told no, and that's not why I detour to email. But I'm finding that when I'm making my calls, I'm getting in the office and I'm getting the voicemail because no one's working out of there. Everyone's still working remote. The voicemail might even say, hey, because of the stay-at-home order, we're like, wasn't that like a year ago? So you're not getting someone even when you're calling their direct line. So I am finding that I'm able to capture more people when I'm sending them a message, then that can turn into a phone conversation. So I'm not saying email is just the way to go, but the people I'm going after, I'm not getting anyone in the office half the time. Video email is becoming a lot more popular, and I'm trying to jump on that bandwagon. Things like Soapbox, BombBomb. I do think it's very unique, and you make yourself stand out when you're not just sending an email someone's reading. They're seeing your mannerisms, they're seeing what you look like, they're seeing your excitement about what you do when you're leaving your message. So I think that can become a lot more popular. The only thing is it takes me a long time to get my thoughts across sometimes to even write that email. And now I got to go ahead and speak and communicate, and I might be stuttering. And sometimes I just send it anyway because it's real. You could tell I wasn't reading from a script. So that can take a little longer when I'm trying to do my marketing. I use Constant Contact, which is for my email blast. That serves a couple purposes, but it's not the only thing I think you should rely on because, again, that's, guerrilla marketing and everything. I do like direct messages. So I also have a platform where it does a mail merge. That's through my restoration system. So I can send an email and make it look personal. And then we like to market top down, bottom up. So we send a lot of direct mail, even though we're going after the decision makers in the offices. Still, we want to hit the apartment buildings as well. So sometimes someone from the bottom level can bring it up, or someone from the top level can bring it down and start the conversation for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you're doing just a ton of different kinds of marketing. The video email thing is something I've considered myself because I've heard other business owners having good luck with replying to an email with a video. And it's something that people just don't expect, and it makes them pay more attention. It makes them remember you more. So I think that's something that's definitely worth exploring. I'm curious, with all these different types of marketing you do, how do you keep track of what's working? Are you looking at any metrics, and what are you tracking?
Yeah, so I've always heard that a lot of really great salespeople aren't organized, and it kind of just makes me laugh. I do sales, but I definitely consider myself more of a marketer. I have a degree in graphic design. That's kind of what I look forward to. So I do think I'm very organized, and we actually have a restoration system that helps me track my activities. So every time I make a phone call, every time I send a mailer or an email, I'm actually logging that into the system. So when we have our weekly meetings, we're able to look at our KPIs. Did we hit our metrics? And when we do start to see a volume, we can look back and go, why did that person call us? Of course, you can go ahead and ask them, what was it about Rainbow? They're not going to say, oh, it was that mailer. Maybe it was the message on the mailer, or, I've seen so many things come in, or you've reached out so many ways, but I can actually track, okay, it took 5 calls, 3 emails, 4 mailers to actually get this person to finally look at us. And it's kind of funny because my 2 largest accounts, when they came to us, and I was like, I've been marketing to you for a year, but you just had a need now. And they're like, oh, like we didn't really even notice. It's like, man, all that effort kind of goes by the wayside, but you're doing something right because they still thought to call you, over someone else. My system also allows me to pull reports, so we can get the bulk number of activities you're doing for the month to see how many activities do you think it takes to bring in more business. So I'm kind of a data Nazi and super organized in that aspect. I'm not using sticky notes or anything like that, but Google Calendar comes in handy too when you actually book your presentations and your meetings.
And I would like to say that I am the stereotypical disorganized salesperson. I'm about like a quarter organized. It's the problem with me. It's all up. It's in my head, right? So You are definitely thorough. Having got to work with you and see some of your stuff, you are thorough, and I think that is a secret, one of your secret ingredients to your success, and it's very admirable, and I admire that about you. We've known each other for about 8 years, and as long as I can remember, you were always on LinkedIn, and you kind of touched on it earlier, but maybe we can dive a little deeper into that. Why has that been a place that you've spent a lot of, marketing capital in terms of time? And you just mentioned that you're actually using the paid version, which I didn't know you were doing that, and I've never used that. So maybe you could talk about why LinkedIn, and then what are you getting out of that paid version, and how are you really maximizing that resource for yourself?
I think it depends on what type of business you're going after, first of all. So being in restoration, I'm looking for a certain level of professional. I'm generally not going to find a lot of them on Facebook. When I was going after insurance agents, that was a lot easier to capture people that way and kind of start some interaction. But a lot of the people that I'm going after are very, blue collar, they're generally more of like an office person. Their time's very limited. And, I love that I can send them a direct message. When I'm messaging them on LinkedIn, they're able to go ahead and look at my online resume. They can see how long I've been doing this. They can kind of see, we offer emergency response planning, which is kind of a step above the norm. So they can look at your history and go, okay, this is what they're going to be offering me. This is who this person is. But when you're reaching out on Facebook, if you're not connected, like they can't even access half your posts or your pictures or anything. So it's just a different level of professionalism. And I think that you can get some better interaction because at the end of the day, everyone is there to do business, and that's what I'm trying to gather. As far as why I should use social media, it's branding. And when I think of branding, I think of myself. I'm the brand. I'm the face of Rainbow. You're branding your company. So it's how I portray myself. It's what I post. It's what I prefer to talk about. I'm showing the culture of the company when I'm posting and everything. It's all branding to me, So I really think that it's important you're branding yourself and how you carry yourself and the image that you're portraying, because at the end of the day, we want to do business with people we know, like, and trust, and when you're putting a lot of stuff out there, people, they end up getting to know you, hopefully, and they end up liking you. And that's what's going to ultimately lead to trust and giving you guys a chance.
That's awesome. And it seems like you work with so many small businesses just through the work that you do. You have all these different businesses that you come in contact with through marketing, through your restoration work. I'm curious to know, what kinds of marketing mistakes are you seeing these other businesses make? And probably especially in regards to, not being willing to change the way they do their marketing as the world changes around them.
Yeah, we're definitely a more business to business company. I'd say just mistakes that come to mind is unrealistic expectations. I'm thinking you're going to bring someone in and they're going to bring in all this business right away, no matter what company you are. And they have no experience, no book of business, and they're just, hit the ground running. Don't give them enough marketing materials, training, and, you got to bring in all this stuff right away. So I think a lot of stuff is unrealistic, and business owners need to change their mind as far as giving them enough support so they can be successful and meet their goals and KPIs. I'd say that some are eager to switch from residential to commercial for service industries. I'd say that applies to, and the market is completely different. Your prospects are different. So your pitch needs to be different, and it's a longer sales cycle. So say in our field, I'll talk to other rainbows and they're like, hey, I'm brand new. They want me to go after commercial. And I was like, yeah, that's probably not the best fit for you. Maybe someday, but let's learn who we are, what we're selling. Let's start in this side, start to get some business, because it is such a long sales cycle on commercial. And again, it could be dependent on what you're going after, but me focusing on property managers, they're very loyal. They're not ready to get rid of people. So if you were used to residential and think you're just going to get into commercial and bring in all this business, you're kind of in for an awakening. You got to be open to new ideas. A lot of people, they come up with great ideas, but they're not always great. You got to really analyze it. Is a good fit? What's the ROI? But really try to, take a look at what else could be working for you. Sometimes I think people get stuck in a rut, and this is always the way that we've always done it. And it could take that one person to maybe spark some interest and, hey, let's try this. But let's analyze the outcomes, the customers, to see if that new idea is really a good fit. And then I'd say people are really turning to Google for goods and services a lot more now after the pandemic, or through the pandemic and after, than we used to. So I'd say SEO is pretty important. I do like to clarify it's not the best fit for the type of jobs I'm looking to bring in per se. We've dabbled with it, but it is a good fit for a lot of other companies. And if you don't really understand it, it's important to bring someone on if that could be a good fit. Just because people are online, they're looking for goods and services right now. So you can rank at the top of the list, have the right keywords. So I think that could take them up a level.
Yeah, and something that you talked about there was, people or business owners that, have a hard time changing it up and doing something different, and one thing that Luke and I both see in our industry is we have a hard time convincing business owners to see the value of social media and the value of building that brand. And because if you're, Nikki, if somebody says, if you say, hey, I'm Nikki from, Rainbow International Restoration, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go look you up on social media, right? They're going to go find you on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. So, and then if they pull up and they see some content that backs up what you had said when you talked to them earlier in the day or whatever, it's all relative, right? It's relative to the SEO. It's just relative to the brand, and it's relative to marketing. So along those lines, what are some social media do's and some social media don'ts that you kind of adhere to for your business and maybe even your personal brand?
So as I mentioned, I didn't have a personal Facebook, for years. I only got one when I started working for Rainbow. So I didn't really know the social media rules and etiquette, I guess you would say, and I wanted to make sure going in, I wasn't just like, word vomiting all over and, putting the wrong stuff out there. So this guy, Brian Basilico, he's from the Chicago area. He ended up offering a 1-hour free social media class. So I attended that. It's very interesting. So I bought his book. It's called It's Not About You. It's About the Bacon. It's about relationship marketing in a social media world. Something you can find on Amazon, really reasonable. And the moral of his story is you got to find one thing that everything could be relatable to help build your brand. So what's one thing that everyone can look at and somehow go, oh yeah, I get it. And I think a comparison that he used at the time, this was, 9 years ago, was like kittens or something, or cats, or he's like, man, it's all over social media. Like if you're on TikTok or you're on Facebook and everyone's liking the cats or they're commenting, or you even see it and you're like, oh, cute. I don't have a cat, but yeah, who doesn't like a kitten, right? And another comparison he was talking about was like babies. Again, I don't have a baby, but everyone loves the cute little Gerber baby. So I was like, okay, well, what's something that can help kind of brand me, not necessarily Rainbow, but brand myself. And I was like, hey, I really like to cook. Everyone likes to eat, right? So I started posting a lot of cooking pictures and recipes and maybe short videos and everything. And again, at the time I was going to a lot of insurance agents and I'm friends with a lot of them. So I'd walk in kind of forgetting we're even friends on social media. And they're like, hey, that recipe, or, that thing you made the other day. And I was like, oh, wow, you're paying attention, so now we got something to talk about. And it's not always about going right into business. Because again, we're in the relationship people business. We just happen to do mitigation. So now you have you have something to talk about, something in common, and then hopefully that can branch off to the next step to start leaning in and talking about business. So as far as some don'ts, I definitely recommend don't be the negative Nancy. I think we've all seen it, whether it's even on LinkedIn or it's on Facebook. You're scrolling through and someone's just too political, too religious, complaining about this, complaining about that. You don't want people to look at your stuff and roll your eyes. You want to make sure before you're posting something, especially if it's personal, because a lot of people post personal stuff on LinkedIn too. Even though I'm thinking this is funny, how are other people going to interpret this? Might they take it the wrong way? Am I saying something that everyone can relate to? You just want to make sure you're putting good content out there so you will be viewed in a good light rather than looking at it as your personal diary or a sitcom. Who wants to be around negative complainers or anything? So it's important to put valuable stuff out there, educate, and put things out there that people can walk away and go, oh, I didn't know that. Again, even if it's not necessarily something related to your topic, they're going to look at you as a resource. I get calls for all types of stuff that has nothing to do with restoration. They just think I'm a problem solver and I'm going to be able to find someone to connect them with. So that's important. I want to be thought of kind of no matter what it is, I'll try to help figure it out for you, So I'd also say that when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, don't cram sales down their throat right away. I know you and we kind of joke about this. It's like you press accept and they're hitting you 5 seconds later. And it's like, I knew I shouldn't accept. But you never know who that person knows. And you always think, well, maybe they're going to lead me to business too. And next thing you know, you got this whole long sales pitch. I think it is important to always hit them back with a thanks for the connection. Maybe when you hit them back with that, it makes them look at your online resume where they didn't take time to kind of look at your LinkedIn profile before, maybe even wait a week, feel them out, try to get some interaction, look at their activities. Are there other things on there you can go ahead and, interact and post with before you actually hitting them with the sales? Are they in the same groups that you're in LinkedIn? But yeah, important not to just go right for it.
That's a ton of great advice. I love those do's and don'ts. Those are a lot of the things that I personally believe in as well.
Right.
And you mentioned being a problem solver, being seen as a problem solver. And that's the side benefit to that is also that then you're seen as an expert. If you can solve people's problems, well, then obviously you're an expert in that field. They see you that way. So if you're an expert, that makes you even more memorable and more likely for people to turn to you when they do need your services.
Yeah.
I think our listeners are just going to get a ton of value out of all the advice you just gave, but I would want to prompt you just for one more piece of advice. What's the best advice you could give to a small business owner who wants to market their own business, or maybe a marketer who is working with a small business?
I would say that every business model is different. So you really need to know your customer and you need to track your ROI. I just think that's critical. No matter what you're selling, whether it's tangible services, an item, what are their needs? What are their pains? And it's not something I just came up with, that totally works for me. Any sales class you go to, they're going to teach you that. When you're trying to brand and message and send your materials and your emails out there, you really got to make it about them. I think a lot of people that are in sales and marketing, they really make it about themselves. They get 5 minutes, so they're trying to hurry up and cram everything down their throat. And you got to really understand what are the problems that you're having, even though you're used to hearing some of the same things. One thing could be a bigger problem for them than anything else. So trying to have what we refer to as a CNA, before we really put on a presentation and start soliciting them, we do a CNA with our customer, client needs analysis. And I have my set of questions. And then depending on who the contact is, then I'm going to edit those questions around them because they might be different than the other property manager I spoke with. So we really try to get to the root of what are the challenges you're having when you're hiring contractors, or what are the challenges that you're having when on jobs? What are the things that are going well? So we know to pay attention to. So when we actually do present to them, we're hitting on all the valuable points. I think a lot of people skip that, and they go right into selling. Of course, our emails are trying to put something out there to gain some interest and everything, but at least start planting the seeds. Hey, if you're like the other property managers I deal with, this is important to you and this is important to you. And they might go, oh yeah, that's the same headache I had too. So don't skip that conversation and finding out what's really causing them aggravation, because then you can come in and now be the solution.
So, and speaking of being the solution, because I know you and your business have been the solution for so many different business owners, property manager, property management companies. Right now I know you're out there on social media. What kind of business owners, what kind of businesses, what kind of clients are you looking to work with, and how can those clients find you specifically if they want to work with you and your restoration business?
So we do both residential and commercial. We have transitioned more into focusing our efforts on commercial over the last couple of years. So I'd say a lot of the people that I work with are, facility managers, property management, real estate, and then it's in the commercial field, it could be broken down into so many different segments, institutions, retail, office, multifamily. So I do feel like a lot of people are finding me on LinkedIn, even if I'm not already connected to them, just kind of reaching out. Hey, I'm in the Chicagoland area. I have a need. Let's talk. I just connected with someone the other day. I didn't even have time to pitch them yet. And they reached out and said, hey, I'm looking for a national vendor. I hope that you can be the fit. So now we're going to have our CNA, see if we're a good fit for each other, and then hopefully end up presenting. But they can go ahead and find me on LinkedIn, Niki Ramirez, or you can go to rainbowrestore.net. That is our website. And we can be contacted at 1-800-262-0244. We service the Chicagoland area, but we are a national company. So we have regional as well as national support.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. Luke, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to thank you for coming on the show like this. This has been a ton of amazing information, and we really appreciate it. And we'll put your contact info in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you for hopping on with us, Niki. And hopefully I can catch up with you and John somewhere down the road soon.